you've been struggling trying to get a gluten-free sourdough starter going, you're not alone. It took me a long time, but I finally got it, and I'm going to share this here. I've made a dehydrated of my starter. It's for sale right now on Etsy, and I don't know, as I update it, I'll have it in the description below on the video. Anyways, your package will come like that. Get approximately 20 grams. That one shows 21. And ahead of time, what you're going to want to get, a wide mouth jar. Now, I've got a pint there because we're just getting the starter going. You could use a quart, and then a flexible scoop scraper of some type. You could use a silicone, like a cake pan scraper. You're going to want a lid for your jar, and then also water. And your water should be, I don't know if you can read that, between 90 and 100 degrees. That'll get the yeast active. And in addition to that, you want, well, here, this is brown rice flour. This one is sweet sorghum flour. Now, I don't know if yours is going to say sweet, but sorghum flour is what it is. Anyways, so what we're going to do is show you how to activate this yeast. So, the best way is get your jar first. You've got 274 grams in the jar. Alright, we're going to zero that back. Then we're going to take our starter, which basically, well, let me get it out here for you. There we go. It's chunks. I don't powder it. It doesn't require it. Put that in your jar. Now, like I said, there it shows 21 grams. Alright, to that, we're going to add 40 grams of that warm water. $39, oops, 41. Well, close enough. Alright, and as you see, it's just enough to cover it basically. And then what you want to do is use that scraper. You want to make sure everything's covered. It doesn't take very long. This goes right to a kind of a slurry, you might say. But we're going to let it set for a couple minutes just to let it absorb all that moisture that it can before we move on to the next step. Okay, it's been about 15-20 minutes. Let's see how she does. Oh yeah. We have in there, it's like a thin paste. That's what we want, just enough to soak her up. Alright, now to that mixture we have, like I said, 20 grams of starter, dehydrated starter. We added 40 grams of water. So now what we want to do, that's a total of 60. Now what you want to do is 60 grams of wheat flour, or rice flour. $53, $56, $8, $9, $60. Alright, there's our rice flour, 60 grams. Now we're going to do the same thing, 60 grams of sorghum. There's 30, 47, 53, 55, 58. Come on. Oh, gotta be right there. 60. All right. Now here's where the quote critical part comes in. Because you only want to add enough water. We're not even going to weigh the water because each flour batch is a little different. You just want to add enough that it makes this batter moist without being wet, too dry. I mean, it's going to be thick, and that's what you want. But you got to make sure that the moisture is throughout the mixture, not just a little corner. So you're going to have to just add a little bit of a time until you get there. You can see it's still plenty dry in there. So we'll just keep adding a little bit at a time. Like I said, it's going to be a really thick paste, which if you look here, that's getting there, but still a little bit thick. I'll give it just a little bit more moisture. Not much. There we go. Yep, that's where we're at. Okay, yes, that's what I want right there. Okay, as you look at it, it's really thick, but it's really moist there. So that's what you want right there. Like I said, you've got 20 grams of starter, 40 grams of water to start with, and then you've got 60 grams each of rice, sorghum flour, and then just enough water to give you a really thick consistency. All right, you put your lid on because we're not needing to attract any more bacteria because this starter has it all. So you just want it to ferment now. It is right now just a few minutes till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll check back, check it in the morning again until it does its next thing. Basically, you let it set. It'll tell you when it's ready. Okay, and one other thing that you can do is if you look, you can see the level. What you can do is make a mark right there so that you know where you started out at. Okay, that's fairly well, yeah, that's pretty close. Okay, a little update on this starter. It's been 24 hours. I did not get any video before I went to bed. You can see it hasn't grown any, but if you look there, you see the bubbles starting to activate. There's some more over here on this side. So yeah. And we do have a cool day down in the teens. So it's a little cooler in the kitchen. But anyways, like I say, just a little update. 24 hours. Alrighty, it's been actually 45 hours since we started this. There's the mark, and you can see it's active. You can see all the bubbles in it. Get out of the shadow. Turn that thing around. Now this thing is still on the rise. You can tell because it's domed. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of a dome coming up in the middle. When it stops, you'll see a little bit on the side of the jar, but the inside will drop a little bit. So we're gonna probably be right about 48 hours and this thing's gonna be ready to feed on the next step. Well, we're now at hour 54. I got busy, so I didn't get it back at 48 hours, but it makes no difference. As you see, we have very active, very active, I'm trying to do this upside down. Very active starter. Starting to separate a little bit so you know that it's dropping back down. It's already reached its peak. So what we're going to do, like I say, this is directly from the Dehydrated. We haven't touched it other than that. So what I do is I take my flexible scraper and I work it down. Kind of mix it up, get the air bubbles out of it. Alright. At this point, I don't get real technical on this, but whenever I do a bake, I use a full cup of starter. So as you see, my starter's about right there. So we're just a little bit over a cup. So this is going to be, what we're going to do is your discard or throwaway, whatever you want to say. And I want to take about half of this. Actually a little less than half, because I want to feed this starter so that it gets me a full cup to bake with and enough to feed and keep going. So that's what I'm going to take out. We're left with this, which is about right there. a little bit below where we started in. But that was after we added everything. So now, what I'm going to say, and you're going to have to adjust what you want because, like I said, I use a full cup of starter, and so I want to make sure I've got a cup of starter every time I bake. I only do 2 loaves at a time, so it's not a huge amount of starter that I need to keep on hand. Okay, so now onto this. I'm going to zero that out. Now we're going to do the same exact thing we did when we fed it. We're going to give it 60. 30, 56, 59, there's 60. Okay, that's our brown rice flour, 60 grams. Then we're going to do the same thing here with the sorghum flour. We're going to do 60 grams. $55, $59, $59, $59. Oh, come on. It's got to be close. We're going to go with that. All right. Now, actually, what I think I'm going to do is transfer that into a 1-quart jar because that's usually what I do. Okay, and of course I don't have a wide mouth handy, so we're going to go with this. There, that's better. Almost there, bear with me. Alright, we're going to call that good. Alright, now back to the original. Put a little bit of water in it. Stir it up. Make sure it all gets moist. Still a little bit dry there. It's getting there. But like I say, it's basically the same thing that we did before when we fed this starter. We had our starter in there, the dehydrated, we had the water in there, the 40 grams of water with the 20 of starter made the 60 grams. And then we added the 60 grams of rice flour and 60 grams of sorghum flour. Added enough water to make a thick paste. Let her set. Now this one, more than likely it's 8 o'clock in the evening, more than likely by about midnight, 1 o'clock, it's going to hit its peak. So I'm going to miss that on camera. But like I say, you'll be able to tell because the marks will be on the jar. It'll be full of bubbles. And I only feed my starter every 24 hours. I don't do it twice a day. I do it about 24 hours. Once I've got it active, like this, now when I get this done, I'm going to put it in the refrigerator put it to sleep for a while, put it to bed, till I'm ready to bake with it. And when I'm ready to bake with it, I take it out, give it a good feed, and let it rise. I bake with, or I take my cup, 1 cup of starter out, feed it again, and then put it back in the refrigerator, put it back to bed. Well, this is a little dry. That way you're not throwing away all this flour. You know, this gluten-free flour is not cheap. It's not like you're buying, you know, the Roundup sprayed hybrid heavy gluten flour that is in the other stuff that's cheap. Alright, I think we got her mixed up pretty good. Like I say, I like to scrape down the sides. That way you can see that it has risen and how high. If you look inside, nice smooth mixture. Let me get my marker here, and we'll put a mark on here, right there. That'll tell me where we're at. To start with, we'll put the lid on top, let her set, and we'll look at it tomorrow. Okay, we are now ready to take the next step. As you see, we have a little bit of a rise to it. The holes are everywhere, which shows that it is fermented. Okay, so at this point you have 2 choices. One is you can take this just as it is, set it in the refrigerator, and then when you're ready to bake with it, or getting ready to bake with it, then you would come back to this step where I'm at right now and do this. I'm going to go ahead and bake with this because I'm going to put it into this video showing you how to bake with it and do the recipe and all that. So I'm going to go ahead and do this next step. And the first thing I'm going to do is stir it down. Alrighty, I take my flexible doodad thing here. And I want to get rid of all that air, gas bubbles, whatever you want to call it. And we're back down to where we were. Now, one thing to note, you should have a fairly pleasant, fruity smell to it, which that does. That tells you that everything is normal. Alright, so if we look at this, I've got not quite 2 cups in there. And I know I want to use a cup for my next batch of bread. So this is where I go away from the gram and the weight measurements, and I go volume. I seem to have better luck with this from here on, going with the volume. So I have a measuring spoon, which this one is a 1/8 cup. Yeah, there you can see it. 1/8 cup, and to this amount, let's see, that's how I do it, about that much And I'm putting in the sorghum right now. There's 2. I'm going to go about 2.5. Alrighty. Same with the rice. 1, 2, and a half. And what that's going to do, 2 things. I find that it likes to grow with that kind of an amount, and it gives me the volume I need to pull my cup off to bake with, and then still have an amount to go into the refrigerator for the next batch. So anyways, from here, same thing. We put just enough water in, and once again that's at 90 to 100 degree water. We stir it up. Like I said, I have the best results when I keep it a little on the thick side. So that's why I say I go away from these measurements now, these weights and measurements, and kind of go by sight and just what works. You know, nobody can tell you exactly how everything's going to work at your house. You know, your room temperature may be different. The humidity may be different. The water is going to be different. The flour is going to be different. And each one of these contributes to how this is going to work. As in any baking situation, they all contribute. Consistency, well, I don't know if there is a consistency unless you're in a controlled environment like a commercial bakery, you know, that has to have a consistent loaf of bread all the time. Well, this isn't one of those. And I really doubt that your kitchen will be either. So we're going to just go like this. Alright, I've got it mixed up. I might want to go just a little more water. But I like to get it really mixed first before I add any more. Make sure there's no dry pockets in there. Alright. I'm going to put just a little more water in. Go. That's what I like to see. Just about like that. It'll come off the spoon, but is thick. I'll give you a little better view of that. There we go. That's what I'm looking for when I do mine. Alright, like I said, I like to scrape down the jar so I can keep an eye on the rise. In case I don't see it, I can see how high it went. go. We got it all the way around. And just for grins, let's put a mark on the jar again. All right. We're going to put it up there this time. All right, so what that's going to do is give us plenty of starter for our baking. And then I'll show you after this, like I say, the next step will be putting together a bread, feeding this, and putting it to sleep so that you're ready. I mean, this is basically it. You've got your starter, it's active, you feed it. If you did before, yeah, if you took it from where we started this segment of video, where it was down, you know, in there somewhere, and you put it in a refrigerator, when you bring it back out, you want to let it warm up just a little bit and then do exactly what I just did. You add the flour, add a little bit of water, stir it up, let it set, because when it activates, then you'll be able to bake with it. Now, I personally can bake with it anytime from now, as it starts to rise and bubble, a couple hours it'll probably be, until it's 24 hours old, so next morning. And then we bake with it and go. So.